The impossible assignment, the great assembly hall of the Galactic Council, fell silent as the holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. Ambassador Dexel of the Corvan Empire, his katana shell gleaming under the artificial lights, gestured toward the swirling mass of red that dominated the star chart. His voice carried the weight of countless centuries when he spoke. Fellow council members, what you see before you is the Void Plague. In the past 6 months, it has consumed 14 solar systems in the outer rim. If left unchecked, it will devour our entire galaxy within 2 standard cycles. Captain Sarah Martinez sat quietly in the newest section of the council chamber, the area designated for humanity's representatives. At 35, she was young by galactic standards, but her dark eyes held the steady focus of someone accustomed to impossible odds. The other delegates barely acknowledged the human presence. After all, Earth had only joined the Galactic Union. 8 months ago, Elder Zenith of the Zephyrian Collective raised one of her translucent appendages. When she spoke, her words seemed to float through the chamber like whispered wind. The Void Plague consists of parasitic entities that exist partially outside our dimensional space. They cannot be destroyed by conventional weapons. Our scientists estimate that each entity must be eliminated using quantum disruption technology, requiring precise calculations for each individual target. The Nexus Collective's representative, a cube of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with calculated light patterns. Analysis confirms traditional military approaches ineffective, systematic, elimination required, estimated time frame for total eradication, minimum for galactic standard years. Ambassador Vexel's mandibles clicked in agreement. The Council has therefore established elimination quotas for each member species, based on their technological capabilities and available resources. The Corvan Empire, with our warrior traditions and advanced fleet, will undertake the elimination of Sector Alpha 7. We estimate completion within 5 standard years. Elder Zenith nodded gracefully. The Zephyrian Collective will cleanse Sector Batanine through our meditative focusing techniques. Our careful approach will require approximately 7 years to ensure no entities escape our attention. The Nexus Collective pulsed again. Nexus Collective assigned Sector Gamma 12. Computational analysis indicates for years, 2 months. For systematic elimination of all hostile entities. Sarah leaned forward slightly as Ambassador Dexel turned toward the human section. The newest member of our union, humanity, will be responsible for Sector Delta 6. Given their recent admission to galactic society, we estimate their completion timeline at 3 to 5 standard years, assuming they can adapt their primitive weaponry to quantum disruption technology. A low murmur rippled through the chamber. The Trilaxian delegate, resembling a giant seahorse with multiple arms, spoke in a bubbling voice, with respect to our human colleagues. Perhaps they should observe other species' methods before attempting their own elimination efforts. The Void Plague requires sophisticated approaches that may be beyond their current understanding. Sarah stood slowly, her movement drawing attention from across the chamber. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly, without artificial enhancement. Thank you, Ambassador Dexel, for the assignment. Humanity accepts responsibility for Sector Delta 6. She paused, scanning the assembly. We'll have preliminary results within the week. The chamber erupted in clicking, whistling, and pulsing that served as laughter among the various species. Ambassador Vexel raised a claw for silence. Captain Martinez, I believe you may not fully understand the scope of this undertaking, Sector Delta 6 contains approximately 2.3 million individual void plague entities spread across 47 star systems. Each entity requires specific targeting protocols. I understand perfectly, Sarah interrupted politely. Sector Delta 6, 2.3 million targets, 47 systems, will begin immediately upon our return to Earth. Elder Zineth's appendages swayed with what might have been concern. Young human, the void plague has existed since before your species discovered fire. The entities are ancient, cunning, and adaptive. They learn from each encounter, making subsequent eliminations increasingly difficult. This is why careful, methodical approaches are essential. Sarah nodded respectfully. We appreciate your wisdom, Elder Zenith. However, humanity tends to approach problems differently than most species. We'll adapt as needed. The Nexus Collective's energy patterns shifted to what their translators identified as confusion. Clarification required. Human tactical approach, parameters unknown. Request operational timeline details. We'll be in touch, Sarah replied simply. As the council session concluded, Ambassador Vexel approached the human delegation. His massive form towered over Sarah, but she showed no sign of intimidation. Captain Martinez, I must emphasize the importance of this assignment. If humanity fails, those systems will become staging grounds for further void plague expansion. The consequences will be catastrophic, Sarah finished. Don't worry, Ambassador. Humans have a saying, the difficult we do immediately. The impossible takes a little longer. In this case, I'm thinking we'll have it wrapped up by Sunday night. Dexel's compound eyes blinked rapidly. Sunday night, Earth time, roughly 48 hours from when we begin operations. Sarah gathered her data tablets. Oh, an ambassador. Once we're finished with our sector, we'll be happy to assist other species with theirs. Seems like everyone could use a hand with their timelines. The return journey to Earth took 18 hours through hyperspace. Sarah spent the time reviewing the void plague data while her small team of advisors worked on preliminary assessments. Dr. James Chen, a quantum physicist who looked more like a college freshman than a leading expert in dimensional mechanics, peered over his tablet with excitement. Sarah, this is fascinating. The void plague entities exist in a quantum superposition state. They're simultaneously in our dimension and somewhere else entirely. That's why conventional weapons can't touch them. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos, a veteran of 3 peacekeeping missions, frowned at her tactical display. The aliens are treating this like traditional warfare. Systematic elimination, careful planning, coordinated fleet movements. But if these things exist in multiple dimensions, simultaneously, then we're not fighting a traditional enemy, completed Dr. Raj Patel, Earth's leading expert in swarm intelligence and network theory. We're dealing with a distributed system that spans dimensional boundaries. The question isn't how to destroy individual entities, it's how to crash the entire network. Sarah smiled, the expression that had made her legendary among Earth's military commanders. Exactly. While other species are thinking about this as a war requiring years of careful campaigns, we're looking at it as a systems problem requiring an elegant solution. The team worked through the night, their enthusiasm infectious. By the time Earth came into view through the ship's viewport, they had outlined an approach that would have seemed impossible to their galactic colleagues. But then, humans had always specialized in the impossible. Upon landing at Lunar Command, Sarah immediately convened a meeting with Earth's top scientific and military leaders. Within 6 hours, she had approval for Operation Weekend Warrior, a name that perfectly captured humanity's approach to the crisis. Asterisk. The concept is simple, she explained to the assembled team of over 300 specialists. Instead of treating each void plague entity as an individual target requiring careful elimination, we treat the entire infestation as a single, distributed network. Dr. Chun's team has identified the quantum resonance frequency that maintains the entity's dimensional coherence. Dr. Patel's algorithms can map the network topology in real time. Colonel Santos will coordinate our rapid deployment. Forces. Admiral Rebecca Hayes, Earth's senior military commander, studied the operational plan with growing amazement. Sarah, you're talking about simultaneously targeting 2.3 million entities across 47 star systems. The coordination requirements alone are exactly the kind of challenge humans excel at. Sarah interrupted with confidence. Think about it, Admiral. How many humans are online at any given moment, coordinating activities across our planet? How many are gaming together, solving problems collaboratively, sharing information instantaneously? This isn't really different from organizing a massive multiplayer operation, except the stakes are a bit higher. Dr. Chen nodded enthusiastically. We've already begun crowdsourcing the targeting calculations. Give us 6 hours, and we'll have quantum disruption frequencies calculated for every individual entity. The processing power required would overwhelm any single computer system, but distributed across Earth's entire network, ... It becomes trivial, finished Dr. Patel. I've adapted social media algorithms to coordinate the elimination sequences. Every smartphone on Earth becomes part of the targeting network. Every person becomes a node in our operational matrix. Colonel Santos pointed to the deployment timeline. The beauty of this approach is speed. While other species are organizing massive fleet movements and establishing supply lines, we're treating this as a weekend project. Small, fast ships with quantum disruption transmitters hit every target simultaneously, overwhelm the network's ability to adapt. Admiral Hayes shook her head in wonder. When the Galactic Council hears about this, ... they'll probably think we're insane, Sarah agreed cheerfully. Right up until Sunday night, when we report mission accomplished. The next 48 hours would prove whether humanity's unconventional approach could succeed, where traditional methods required years of careful planning. As Sarah looked around the room at her team's eager faces, she felt the familiar surge of confidence that had carried humanity from cave-dwelling to space. Exploration in mere millennia. All right, people, she announced. Let's show the galaxy what humans can do with a weekend and a good challenge. Asterisk the weekend that changed everything. Friday, 1800 hours Earth Standard Time. The hastily assembled human task force began departing from Lunar Command in waves. Unlike the massive battle fleets other species would have organized, the human approach resembled nothing so much as a distributed startup launch. Dozens of small, fast ships carried minimal crews and maximum automation. Each vessel was equipped with quantum disruption transmitters designed and built in the 36 hours since Operation Weekend Warrior had been approved. Captain Sarah Martinez commanded the operation from the lead ship, Breakthrough, but the real coordination was happening across Earth's global network. In coffee shops in Seoul, teenagers solved targeting equations while waiting for their orders. In Lagos, university students mapped entity cluster patterns between classes. In Snow Paulo, a grandmother who had spent her retirement years mastering puzzle games identified critical network nodes while her family slept. The alien observation post at the edge of Sector Delta 6 detected the approaching human force with confusion. Observer Kethlan of the Zephyrian Collective transmitted his report to the Galactic Council with obvious bewilderment. Council members, the human fleet has arrived at Sector Delta 6. However, their approach violates all established protocols. Instead of establishing a secure perimeter and conducting reconnaissance, they have dispersed their forces across all 47 star systems simultaneously. Their ships are broadcasting on open frequencies, apparently crowdsourcing their tactical decisions to their homeworld in real time. Ambassador Dexel's response crackled through subspace. Crowdsourcing. Explained this term. The humans appear to be treating the elimination operation as a collaborative puzzle. Citizens on Earth are analyzing void plague movement patterns and suggesting targeting priorities. Children are identifying entity clusters using what they call gaming interfaces. The entire human population has become part of their military operation. Elder Zenath's concerned whisper joined the communication. This approach is dangerously reckless. The void plague entities will adapt to their methods, making subsequent elimination attempts impossible. Aboard Breakthrough, Sarah smiled as the reports flowed in from her distributed forces. Dr. Chen, what's our quantum resonance mapping status? 97% complete, Chen replied, his eyes bright with exhaustion and excitement. The crowdsourcing approach is working beyond our wildest projections. We have real-time identification of every single entity in the sector, plus predictive modeling of their probable movement patterns for the next 72 hours. Dr. Patel looked up from his coordination display. Sarah, the social media algorithms are performing perfectly. We have optimal targeting sequences for every star system, synchronized to begin simultaneously. The entities won't have time to adapt because they'll all be eliminated within a 6-minute window. Colonel Santos monitored the deployment status. All ships report ready. Quantum disruption transmitters are locked on target. We're ready to begin synchronized elimination on your command. Sarah checked the mission clock. Saturday 0200 hours, Earth Standard Time. Operation Weekend Warrior had been underway for 8 hours. Status report from Observation Post. Lieutenant Commander Johnson, monitoring galactic communications, grinned. The aliens are having emergency conferences, trying to figure out what we're doing. Apparently, they've never seen a military operation that looks like a massive online gaming session. In a way, that's exactly what this is, Sarah mused. Humans have been preparing for this kind of challenge for decades without realizing it. Every time someone coordinated a raid in an online game, every time a community solved a puzzle collaboratively, every time we used social networks to organize responses to disasters, we were training for something like this. The countdown began. Across 47 star systems, small human ships positioned themselves with precision that would have required months of planning using traditional methods. But humanity had never been traditional. All stations, this is Breakthrough, commence. Operation Weekend Warrior in 10 seconds. 5.3.2.1. Execute. The quantum disruption transmitters activated simultaneously across Sector Delta 6. For exactly 6 minutes and 43 seconds, a coordinated pulse of energy targeted every single void plague entity in the sector. The effect was instantaneous and complete on Earth. Millions of people watched the real-time feeds as the red dots representing void plague entities blinked out of existence. In Seoul, the teenager who had solved the targeting equations for system Delta 6 Alpha cheered as her calculations proved correct. In Lagos, the university students high-fived as their cluster analysis successfully predicted entity behavior. In Sao Paulo, the grandmother smiled as her pattern recognition identified the last critical network node. The alien observation post went silent for nearly an hour. When observer Kethlin finally transmitted his report, his voice carried tones of disbelief that the translators struggled to convey. Council members, ... The humans have. They've eliminated all void plague entities in Sector Delta 6. Complete elimination. 0 entities remaining. Total operation time, 18 hours, 43 minutes. The emergency council session that followed became legendary in galactic political history. Ambassador Thexel's usual composure had evaporated entirely. 18 hours for complete sector elimination. This is impossible. Elder Xenoth's ethereal presence flickered with agitation. The void plague has existed for millennia. It cannot be eliminated in less than a day. There must be an error in the measurements. The Nexus Collective's energy patterns indicated maximum computational strain. Error probability, negligible. Sensor confirmation, complete elimination verified. Human operational method, incomprehensible. Captain Sarah Martinez appeared on the communication channel from Breakthrough, looking refreshed despite having coordinated the operation for nearly 24 hours. Council members, Sector Delta 6 is clear. We're ready for our next assignment. The silence that followed stretched for nearly a full minute before Ambassador Dexel managed to speak. Captain Martinez, how did you accomplish in 18 hours what we estimated would require years? Sarah's smile was visible even through the holographic display. Ambassador, I think there might be a fundamental difference in how humans and other species approach problems. You saw 2.3 million individual targets requiring careful, methodical elimination. We saw a distributed network that could be crashed with the right approach. Dr. Chun's voice joined the channel. The key insight was treating the void plague as a systems problem rather than a military problem. Once we mapped the quantum resonance network maintaining the entity's dimensional coherence, elimination became a matter of coordination rather than firepower. Colonel Santos added her tactical perspective. Other species organize military operations like traditional armies, command structures, careful resource allocation, methodical advancement. Humans organize like ... Well, like humans. Collaborative, adaptive, massively parallel processing. Elder Xenoth's whisper carried a note of wonder. You turned your entire civilization into a single military unit. Not exactly, Sarah corrected. Gently, we turned a military problem into a community project. Every human who participated did so voluntarily, contributing their unique skills and perspectives. A teenager in Seoul had insights that helped our quantum physicists. A grandmother in Sao Paulo saw patterns that our military analysts missed. Dr. Patel's enthusiasm was infectious even through the communication system. The beautiful thing is scalability. If you have larger sectors that need clearing, we can just expand the network. More people, more perspectives, faster solutions. Ambassador Thexel's mandibles clicked rapidly. Captain Martinez, you mentioned being ready for your next assignment. Are you suggesting that we'd be happy to help with the other sectors? Sarah finished. The Corvin Empire's 5-year timeline for Sector Alpha 7 could probably be completed by next weekend. The Zephyrian Collective's 7-year plan for Sector Betanin might take us a couple of weeks. but only because we'd want to be respectful of your meditative focusing techniques. The Nexus Collective's patterns shifted to what their translators indicated as computational overload. Human confidence level, maximum basis for confidence, unknown. Request, operational methodology transfer. Of course, Sarah replied cheerfully. We'll be happy to share our methods. Though I should warn you their approach requires treating impossible problems as weekend projects. Not every species might be comfortable with that mindset. The council session ended with the unprecedented decision to redesignate humanity from probationary member to crisis response specialists. Within 6 months, human teams had eliminated void plague infestations that had plagued the galaxy. For centuries, more importantly, they had introduced an entirely new paradigm for approaching seemingly impossible challenges, as Sarah Martinez later told the graduating class at the newly established Galactic Cooperation Academy. The difference wasn't that humans were better than other species. The difference was that when other species saw an impossible problem, they asked, how can we carefully plan a solution over several years? When humans saw the same problem, we asked, what would it take to solve this by Sunday? The Academy's motto, suggested by that same grandmother from Snow Palo, who had identified critical network nodes, became famous throughout the galaxy. Why wait for years when you can finish it this weekend? The void plague was never seen again in known space. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned that sometimes the most sophisticated problems require the most human solutions. Asterisk.